One of the main reasons that coffee has different levels of quality as well as taste qualities is because of the processing. It's romantic to talk about the terroir of coffee, the varieties, the soils, the altitudes, but they mean little if the coffee's not processed well. This video here is at Gitesi in Rwanda near Lake Kivu. And it features how people work the washing channel. Washing channels are becoming obsolete in some places as some growers move to machine-processed coffee that scrubs off the fruity mucilage instead of fermenting it off the traditional way. But washing channels do several things. They remove the fruit, but they also grade the coffee for density. And this just proves that fermentation can be fun. This is at Kanzu in Nyamasheke in Rwanda. And they're actually helping to remove the already fermented coffee, the mucilage from the already fermented coffee, by essentially dancing. You won't see that many places. Here we are at Matovu. They're doing a little dance too. But it's really the work down below, the guys with the wooden rakes in the washing channel that are they're differentiating the qualities of the different coffees within the same lot of picking.
So this is the washing station Kivu that we've bought for quite a few years. These are the fermentation tanks. So when we say tanks, we mean concrete basins. And they wash the coffee in here. This is the second grade coffee we're looking at, which has the brownish stuff is sort of slightly fermented fruit skins, which isn't terrible, but the color of the parchment is definitely a little weak, unclean. There's the polling station staff. And these guys, they ferment dry for 12 hours, so this means dry right here. They've drained the water out. I don't know what's going on here. And here's some more. Here's another tank. It has a lot of fruit skins, but it looks like there could still be second quality coffee. And this is the pulper right there, the green machine. So they have a disc pulper that does grading and separates some basic stuff. And these guys are sort of jumping up and down, agitating the coffee to work off the mucilage because it's already fermented. It's a little unusual. And these guys are washing the coffee through the channel after it's fermented. And then Matovu's method is 12 hours of dry fermentation that loosens the mucilage. And then over here, where that guy is, right there, are soaking tanks. And they're holding the coffee for another 12 hours. Oops, sorry. High-tech video. After they soak, they bring the coffee out here in the shade. It's a covered, shaded beds where they hand pick it while it's still wet, because there's certain defects you can see very clearly while you're hand picking. So that's, in a nutshell, the sort of traditional wet process method they're doing here. And a little bit of dancing, pretty cool. I'm going to take off my shoes and jump in there with those guys right now, so, not. I know my place. Let's go look at the coffee on the beds out there. This is the soaking tanks, which is kind of a Kenya method of this stuff. That's a water can. They created a screen for the soaking coffee. So a lot of this is underwater. It probably all was at some point. And they're leaving it here 12 hours after washing to kind of finish the coffee. And I think the belief is that in soaking, there's a little bit of coffee in the crease of the bean, in the little stripe. And there'll be a little bit of fruity mucilage in there, and you can sort of extra clean the coffee by soaking. So these slippers, they got a lot of water at Matovu, almost too much water. And this is the channel. The channel does two things. They agitate the coffee to get the fruity mucilage off, and it grades the coffee by whether it floats or not. Heavy coffee sinks, and the lighter, lower quality coffee floats. So this is the lowest quality here at the end of the channel. This is the stuff that the water has been carrying down the channel easier than the heavy coffee, which is going to be up around the bend at the top end. And these guys are kind of helping it, like pushing the coffee up the channel. They're helping the coffee to essentially grade itself using the water, as well as agitating off So these wooden stops, what he's doing is releasing the coffee that's on the top, letting it go through, holding back the heavier coffee on the bottom. And these guys are using quite a lot of stops, so they're really being very diligent. The Amazungu, which is me, is kind of the main entertainment today. So I think everyone just wants to stare at me and look at me. I didn't sleep well. The mosquitoes were all over my face last night. I didn't use the net at the Ishara Beach resort, which had no beach and was not a resort. So, anyway, after soaking, we brought the wet coffee out here, and this I call this parchment coffee, but it's really, there's no drawing. And what they're doing is they're gonna, let's see if we can get that real clear. So here you have these kind of greenish beans. Those are actually fine. They can sometimes be immatures, but you can see those when they dry. And you have the white coffee, the pale, nice coffee. And then here what you have is coffee that's actually accidentally been removed from parchment. And like here you have one that's half been removed. So what the white part is actually the green bean that's now exposed to this kind of environment, and it was exposed to the fruity water that was fermenting, and that's not good. So those need to all be picked out. Here you have a pulpernickel that should be picked out. Here you have a green bean that's without the layer on the outside, so that needs to be picked out. And then you can actually see a lot of other damage. Right here we have Antestia, right there. So that coffee with the brown spot has had this insect get to it, and that needs to be removed. That's where you can get potato defect come from. Here's a real nasty one right here. That looks like it's going to become a full black bean. It has Antestia damage. That's definitely coming out. In fact, why am I not just helping right now? I'll just put some of these on the edge here for them. Lazy coffee buy visitor. So these are the kind of things that you want to see out. A few of these are yellow, like over fermented. That could be a cherry that was old. It's also kind of damaged here, so that comes out too. Here's some really gnarly Gitesi damage. So Gitesi is a berry borer, bores into the fruit, and normally those are easy to remove in the dry mill. But a lot of times they get affected by the local fungus that produces potato taste in the bean. So that's some of the stuff you want out. This is the Rogues Gallery of coffee right here. And it's cool because a lot of people don't do this wet sorting of coffee. They take it out to the dry beds. Let's go out there and take a look at those. Hope this wind isn't ruining my high-class video. So this is nice sorted. Whoops, let's focus. A1 parchment. Very nice color. Very few defects. And this is still very wet. It's not going to have a lot of smell, but it's got a clean smell. You know, you don't get a lot of fruity notes in it. And really, some of these things can come out the dry mill. You still see. So, focus. By the way, in terms of defects, look at my fingernail. That's defective too. This is really nice looking parchment, and that's what our experience has been at Matovu. I see very little extra work that needs to happen here, and some of this would come out later in the dry mill. It's probably going to be a very nice coffee, and we produce a lot of it, which is cool. Let's go down with Fabian and Joseph and see if we can see some other coffee. Is that A1? Joe, is that A1 there? Okay. This parchment looks great. This stuff here, it's beautiful. When we talk about so-called African raised beds, that's what we're talking about here. Matovu's weird. It's when I first saw it, I was kind of like, yeah, because it's basically in a wetlands here. It's like a river catchment area, but they've done a lot of work. And even you can see they keep the grass trimmed underneath the beds. A lot of places that don't take care of their coffee well, the grass will grow up really high, and it just traps a lot of moisture around the coffee. So it's not an ideal location in some ways, but the work they do really matters. So, dang, look at that aviator hat. But that's a washing station. That's, you know, and I've seen a lot of them, but it's always interesting, and you always learn something. And it's sort of I try to balance my judgment based on my experience with new information. Even, for example, even having seen this the first time and said, oh, this is a lousy location for a washing station, and realizing that they could overcome that. This is a true cooperative, so they can't just go buy some new place. This is what was essentially donated or purchased by the co-op for their washing station, so they can't pick up and move. But they've done a great job here, and it's really the human work involved and the diligence to produce this much coffee, this quality, which is great. And I love their fermentation method. It's very Kenya-esque, which is cool. Very traditional. And it's really, when you're looking at this, there's what's invisible when you're just looking at parchment is all of the labor that's gone into this to give a consistently clean, good cup of coffee. Luckily, they're pulling from a great area, very high altitude area with good, in general, Rwanda has Bourbon type coffees, very good coffees, so they have a lot going for them. but this is a lot of hands picking through coffee for many hours. That's truly what makes the difference in quality.